I'm back. This is John Noble reporting for the local lobbyist. I'm back, and what we were capping on was how does a Judge Pitthouse of a country Victorian town end up actually producing some sort of device and tool that the police corruptly wanted so they could get rid of the mother and stepfather and allow this man that allegedly actually drinks, allegedly buys drugs, allegedly does all these things under the Victorian police in a country town, and the police will not do anything about it. I think that's quite alarming. And how does the country police of Victoria and the Victorian police end up persecuting a mother and a stepfather and actually going out causing problems? This is about the well-being, health and safety of a mother and stepfather's children. This is not about the father at all. We are not interested in the father. We're interested in having justice and stop this slanderous behaviour. So as we're saying here, bring false information without proper investigations, no procedures followed, and the father, the stepfather and the mother had time, they had been in Victoria. They haven't been in Victoria for over 2 years. The stepfather and mother has not been in Victoria for over 2 years. The stepfather's reputation has been damaged, and Judge Pitthouse knows the stepfather's reputation's been damaged in this country town. He was rode and bullied the mother in court, and he would not listen to us, and he would certainly not listen and overruled it like a kangaroo court. He asked for the police and their decisions to review and revisit into this false restraining order and this false allegation. Number 5, as John Noble's reporting as a lobbyist, to bully the mother, her children, and to make them perform, and the children to be bullied into submission and made to live where they do not want to live. So in other words, the Department of Human Services in Victoria would rather bully the mother's daughters and make them go back and live with a man that has just allegedly assaulted one of their daughters. At the end of the day, that's pretty bad, you know. I mean, the Department of Human Services to make a child return to a father, and the Department of Human Services actually saying to the mother that apparently this justifies it because he comes out and admits that he's wrong, and he's sorry that he did it. He's sorry that he did it, so, you know, he thinks, well, that's acceptable. The Department of Human Services in Victoria says acceptable, so we're just going to bully your daughter back to the father. I don't think that's a good thing. I think that's pretty bad. To indirectly or directly slander the mother, stepfather, as a pedophile and sex offender with no evidence, and to use false information, make the police act corrupt and proceed unethical way with no evidence, allegedly. And also the stepfather has a working with children's card, a blue card, from one of the states of Australia, obviously, and basically you don't get a working with children's card out of wheat bix packets, so I don't know where they get off saying the stepfather is somewhat should be slandered. The Department of Human Services Victoria deny a mother her rights and encourages injustice and bully behaviour. Not to recognise the mother is married to another man, which is a stepfather, not to recognise the stepfather as the stepfather, not willing to follow ethical procedures and proper investigations, and goes out to deliberately slander and cause a bad reputation to do damage for their mother and stepfather. The Department of Human Services Victoria has told the mother indirectly they will force her daughter to return to this country town, and also they condone a father's behaviour of assaulting one of his daughters. How can actually the Victorian Human Services condone and accept that it is quite normal behaviour for a father to assault their daughters? I think that is wrong. I feel that my daughter, this is the mother and stepfather, but the mother saying, I feel my daughter is at risk, the department will not listen to me, and actually goes for the father and tends to actually persecute me, slander me, not listen to me and judge me harshly because of what they say about the stepfather. So I feel that my daughter will be forced to return to the father. So going on, and I'm so concerned that my daughter might end up dead, but according to the Department of Human Services, this is quite acceptable behaviour, because a father goes into the Department of Human Services and says, I'm sorry for what I did. Would you like to know what this father did? It's very interesting. Very interesting. But let's put it this way, you wouldn't do it to a dog, so why would you do it to a human being? Work that one out. Though, apparently, if you did this, what this father did to the daughter, you wouldn't certainly do it to an animal, because if you did it to an animal, you'd be in court and you'd be in big trouble. But according to the Victorian police, this father probably will not be prosecuted, and this father will get away with it. I'd like to know what this father has over the Victorian police, and why he can have the Victorian police harass a mother and stepfather. To make false allegations, to be overreact, push buttons and make false complaints about the father, stepfather, to make false complaints about the stepfather and mother. In the 10 years de facto relationship that the father and the mother had, the Department of Human Services were involved, and it was continual domestic violence right throughout that relationship, de facto relationship. That the stepfather and mother are being treated harshly, and there is no support provided, and both people, the stepfather and mother, the stepfather can prove you have no evidence to be treating Mr. Stepfather with slander and contempt and proceeding not to acknowledge as the mother's husband. So we had there an idea of the actual Department of Human Services acknowledging that do not acknowledge the federal court legislation what is a married couple. We will be going back to the family court, of course, and the mother and stepfather will be going back to the family court and getting these orders changed and getting rid of these false allegations of slander made by the Victorian Police, father, and the Department of Human Services when they don't have any evidence and they cannot prove what they are saying to be true. And as I said, I have a working with children's card in another state, so they have no evidence. So you ask yourself this question: how can they proceed in their attitudes and their behaviour? This is just some issues that they may have issues, the matter to be brought to the table, and those we are putting to the Victorian Government on notice. On notice that there is a lawsuit will proceed in the near future for damages. I'm putting to the federal government, I mean Julia Gillard, right, Julia Gillard is the Prime Minister of this country. Does she really know what's going on in her country? Does she know that a mother is being denied her rights? Does she know really what's happening? I believe when we go to the polls for the next election, and this is the polls and election of the Victorian government and also other governments, you should be voting very carefully who you vote for. It is actually the people that vote the politicians into government. Now, the lawsuit will proceed in the near future for damages. I'm putting the federal government and the Victorian government on notice to proceed with a lawsuit for damages. If the government wishes to proceed in contacting us over the proceedings of dispute mediation, we'll consider these avenues of reviewing these matters, which you can do through John Noble, this advocate talking John Noble. There is much other issues that need to be discussed, and ask the community Human Services Department to stop slandering the mother and stepfather and follow procedures correctly and stop these injustices. To stop slandering the mother or stepfather and not following procedures correctly and stop these injustices. My clients would say, when living in this country town as John Noble, they would like to meet and discuss about these issues, but I'm just going to leave it there and I'm going to go to part 3, and this is John Noble signing off as advocate.